Yeah, you.
Thanks, Justin. My name is Brian Sherdahl. I'm a farmer, own a plumbing business in Weyburn. So if you ever need a plumber, just give me a ring. I guess my question is, maybe concern too, is the whole carbon tax. I'm sure you pretty big topic. I know our elected officials in Saskatchewan are extremely against it. Being a farm boy and being in the trade industry, dealing with heating products, and all my customers are extremely concerned over having that come into our province. So I guess my question is, where are we really going with this carbon taxing? What's really the point? I mean, back in the day, we used to have where families could have, if you want to make your house more energy efficient, you get rebates. We could have, if you're going to put a mandate to really get rid of the carbon footprint in Canada, that we go towards more of a, say that the provinces have to come towards and have 50% or whatever the number is, that they have to have more renewable resources instead of just taxing them and saying, hey, do whatever you want with this money. So that's my question and concern.
No, listen, thank you for the question. It's a question that a lot of people have, and there's been a lot of debate and discussion about. And I think setting things sort of and as you pointed out, there's lots of different ways of going at achieving shared goals. But if we can start with understanding the shared goals, we're probably in a good place. So we'll start with that. Climate change is real, and it's a real challenge to our society, to our world, to our well-being, and particularly to the world we're going to leave to our kids. The question shouldn't be whether we should be taking action. I think the question, and certainly as you put it, is how best to take action on it. Because there's no question with the floods, with the wildfires, with the hurricanes we're seeing right now, we are seeing an increase in extreme weather events. And that's going to have a few different consequences. One, we have to try and figure out how to limit our contributions in an ongoing way to the pollution in the atmosphere that's causing these extreme weather events. But we also have to build up better resilience, build infrastructure that's going to be able to handle 100-year floods that tend to come every 5 years now in some cases, that's going to be able to handle a shifting economy where jobs are changing, where opportunities are different, where we need different sets of skills to be able to be successful. So understanding that the world is changing and we have to be part of it is something I think most of us can agree on. But then your question, which is a really good one, is what is the best way to take real action on this? Now, you talk about sort of energy retrofits and, can we put in incentives and regulations that people have to follow? That's been done and that's being done, and those are pieces of it. But one of the fundamental elements of why we have this carbon pollution in the atmosphere is that polluting has been free. I mean, if you think about two companies, one that is polluting a river and the other that has bought very expensive machinery or filters to not pollute the river, producing the same thing. The company that didn't buy that expensive filter to clean up the river gets to sell its goods at a lower price because it didn't have to invest in something more expensive. And the pollution in the river does come with a cost. Comes with a cost borne by people downstream in extra filtration to be able to use the water, in quality of life and not being able to swim in the water, things like that. So the idea, and it's a fairly well accepted one, is we should make the companies that are polluting responsible or pay for that pollution, pay to clean up that pollution or pay a penalty so that the town can clean up that pollution. It's not borne by the people who had no contributions to it. I mean, that's the principle, that the polluters should pay. Now, right now, we are polluting the atmosphere, and it's free. There's no cost associated with, polluting into the atmosphere. And that means the cost is borne by all of us, whether or not we pollute. And the idea of putting a cost on that pollution, putting a price on that pollution, is not just to bring in money to compensate for the cleaning up of that pollution that everyone else is going to have to bear, or the consequences of that pollution. It's actually to encourage someone to say, well, it won't cost me as much if I only pollute half as much. Or if I bring in a technology that's going to prevent me from polluting. It's called including externalities. So the actual costs of doing something is included in doing it. That's the principle of putting a price on pollution. And that's what we're moving forward with. Now, different jurisdictions have different approaches, but one of the things that I've said, and that I think people understand, is the concept of fairness. That everyone across the country should be doing the same kinds of things. And we laid out a framework plan that allows every province to do what it is they want to do it, as long as they are equivalent in impact and in stringency. And that's the evaluation that we're going through right now. Unfortunately, there are a couple of provinces like Saskatchewan who've said they don't want to be part of doing that, and in that case, we're going to have to move ahead and bring in a price on pollution here in Saskatchewan that'll start coming in as of January 1st. Now, just so you understand, the money collected in Saskatchewan for that price on pollution will be returned to people in Saskatchewan. Not a penny of that goes to government operations or in Ottawa or anything like that. It goes back to the people of Saskatchewan. So what that will actually do, because there's a cost on polluting brought in, it will encourage people to make those investments, industries that pollute, make those investments in greater efficiencies and in reducing that pollution. That's the thinking behind putting a price on carbon, putting a price on pollution, and that's, quite frankly, why there are a lot of people, including some conservative economists, who understand that that's actually a better way of doing it than to bring in heavy-handed regulations, to bring in laws you can't break, to actually say, you can pollute, but it'll cost you. Or you can make investments that'll pollute less, and it'll cost you less. That's the principle we're moving forward with, and that, quite frankly, is one of the most powerful ways, not just of reducing the pollution that we're emitting, but actually encouraging people to innovate and to invest in the kinds of pathways and solutions that we're going to need for the future. And I know a lot of the things that you guys are studying here at Sask Poly are looking at what are the innovative, more energy efficient, more modern or technologically successful ways of doing all the different jobs and skills that you're developing. And that's the approach we have. So I'm not a huge fan of having to make the federal government go it alone. I'd love to do it in partnership with the provincial government here in Saskatchewan. But if they're not going to put forward a plan that is actually going to do its share, like the rest of the country, I'm going to have to move forward. But like I said, every dollar stays in Saskatchewan. But thank you for your question.